Thanks for finding my channel. This is my backgammon learning journey, which I want to share with you because it's the best game ever. So let's go under the backgammon microscope. Right, here we are back in the pub playing a league match, 11-point league match. This was quite early on, get my usual screw up in early. So this is about the difference between slotting, with a little bit of risk attached, usually slotting does have some risk attached, or burying a checker. 5-2 was my role, and that's the way I chose to play it. And I made a comment to my friend that my opponent that maybe that wasn't the right play, but I felt a bit forced into it. But actually, not especially. This is a 5-2 play that I could have played, which is slotting the checker on the 11 point. I think that's better because it is 7 pips away, meaning it can't be hit directly. It can only be hit by rolls of 6-1 and 5-2. On this occasion, 4-3 won't be able to hit. So it's only, if you count them, there's only 4 rolls out of 36 that can hit that checker anyway that I've just slotted. And I think that's just a better play overall than burying a checker that is completely out of play for the rest of this game until it's basically taken off right at the end. This is quite early on, it's only 4 or 5 moves in. And I just prefer that play now. Look at it, it seems to make a lot more sense. And as usual, I didn't see it early doors. Right, this is 4 moves later, roll 5-3. And the order in which I do everything here is basically the reason I think why I screwed this up. So as you can see, I'm already looking at how to play the 5. That's what I've just done right from the start. I've thought, oh, what do I do with the 5 here, and how does the 3 play? Oh, I think I've got a hit now. But if I'd have done it in a different order, it would have gone differently, I believe. Now, what I should have been doing is taking an overall look at the board and gone, oh dear, White's home board is strong. Oh, by the way, I should have doubled there. Should have cubed, missed a cube, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I should have looked at White's home board and gone, oh, that's looking pretty nasty. I don't really want to be hitting there. The race I could see was pretty close. It turns out it was actually dead level. So I should have been thinking, how do I play this by not hitting? And then I would have noticed that 13 to 10 is a natural. It makes the 10 point. And I can play 6 to 1, which is not ideal because it buries a checker, but it doesn't do the thing that I've said I mustn't do, which is hit, because hitting is so dangerous. Because look at White's home board. White's got quite a bit of timing as well, so he can sit with that board for a while. I did miss a cube, and I think the strength in my position here is the fact that I've escaped both my back checkers. And of course I've got 2 white checkers trapped in my home board, so I'd missed a cube as well. So my overall equity loss in this one was, well, 0.182 plus 0.234, so 0.4 something. Not good for one play. But as I say, the order in which I did everything I think caused the screw up. My first protocol was realising how strong White's home board was, and then I wouldn't have got so fixated on how to play the 5. And anyway, you can play the 3 first. It's so basic. You can play the little number first. It's something I still keep doing, not all the time, and I'm better at it than I used to be. But as I say, if I looked at White's position, I'd have then thought, oh, I could play the 3 onto the 10. That makes sense. And then bury a checker I don't want to hit. That's the right play. Didn't do it, and therefore I lost a lot of equity. Right, this is the second game of the match, right at the end, and I've rolled 5-1. You can see my front position is very crunched, but I made the decision to step out, thinking that I've got no timing left. But on this occasion, that's not actually correct, and I should have waited a little bit longer. That was my role and what I was faced with. The move of 4-3 doesn't do much, obviously, and 23 to 18 is, well, it's not great because it steps out into a lot of gunfire, as I call it, where I'm a lot more likely to be gammoned, basically. White's now got a lot of rolls to hit me if I do that. So I needed to really basically sit this one out a bit longer, at least one more roll. What's interesting here from the data is if you look at that, of all the 3 moves I could have played which were correct, which is to leave my back checkers alone, all of them are a minus 1.000 equity loss. That actually means XG is saying that whatever you do, that's correct, but your opponent will be in a position to double correctly next roll, and you will be correct to pass. The blunder here is quite big, 0.237, and it's because I've basically given White, a much better chance of gammoning me So it gives him license to carry on. Whereas before, if I'd have just played the safe play in inverted commas, the only correct play, he'd have been able to double and I would have passed. Okay, this is the middle of game 3, and I've got white on the bar. I roll 5-1. Decide to split one of my back checkers and bring that down. The reason being that I wanted to step a back checker up, that's logical, but I also wanted to bring a builder down to make the 5 point, to improve my home board. So that's incorrect play in red. This is the correct play. I actually just need to bring a checker out as far as I can. I can make the 5 point, but I can just make it with one of the checkers from the 8 point. I don't have to make it with a spare. So I think what's happened here is a bit of fancy play syndrome, as I call it. In other words, I've just tried to be a bit clever when really I just needed to focus on the fact that my priority here is just to make that 5 point board if I can do it. And this is a good opportunity to bring a back checker out. I don't need to be all fancy and break my midpoint to do anything flash. I can just break it down into simple steps. Right, towards the end of the same game, this isn't a blunder in the sense that I actually got it right, but it's a blunder in the sense that I took a long time to decide what to do. This is me working out that, oh, hang on, this is a double 6. If I use 3 of them, I'm going to have to split one of the ones at the back. That's going to leave me exposed. What do I do? And I've paused it there. I actually used a lot more time. I used nearly a minute of my clock to eventually come to the correct conclusion, which was that I basically needed to get them all out and make damn sure I wasn't gammoned, which is what would have happened if I'd played it the other way. And that's the incorrect play, which I didn't do on this occasion. I did get it right. So, as I say, the blunder here was taking a long time to do something that was fairly obvious, but not just that. I've used a long time to make a decision on something that's almost irrelevant, because if I'd have realised my opponent's going to cube anyway. Once I've escaped all those back checkers, he's just going to cube because I'm not going to be gammoned anymore. And that the data on the left here of this slide shows that minus 1.000 means my opponent should cube and I should drop. And if I'd have realised that, I wouldn't have wasted a minute on the clock. Not that it was too critical, but that was the error here. Using a lot of time when, if I'd have been a bit more alive to it, I'd have realised that my opponent was going to cube anyway. Okay, now we're in game 4, middle of game 4. In fact, it's only 9 moves in, and I've rolled 6-4, and I've not been aware here of the race situation. And actually, interestingly, you can see my opponent, he's counting the pips while I'm doing what I'm doing. So he's thinking, actually, where are we in the race here? Is it close? I'm actually 1 pip ahead pre-roll, and 6-4 is a high roll. And I choose to make the 1 point and bring a checker in, which is sort of okay, but it's not addressing the real situation, which is that I'm ahead in the race. And this is a good time to go. White's board is not particularly threatening, so if the worst comes to worst, it's not the end of the world. It's a good time to race with a lead, and I've just lost track of it. And it's something that, as backgammon players, I think we need to be aware of a little bit more often than I am at the moment, and that's where we are with the race lead or deficit. Okay, quite early in game 5, and I've now made the decision to cube, which we'll look at now. It was very quickly accepted, which is often a bad sign. This is the position from which I decided to cube. I've got 11 directs to hit that checker on the 14 point, plus a few extras. It's 14 rolls in total. As you can see, I'm only just a favourite to win, 52%. So not a great cube. My only advantage is the 14 rolls I have to hit, really. There's nothing else going on here, because if you look at the rest of the position, it's just too even. We've both got the same number of home board points. The race isn't particularly bad. I mean, I'm actually down in the race anyway. So if you ask yourself the question, even if I get to hit, am I still in great shape? And the answer is, well, not especially. I'm ahead, but I'm not in that window. This was a very trigger-happy cube. Quite disappointing, actually. Right, still in game 5, only 6 moves later. I'm forced to come off the bar with a 1. So what to do with my 6? Obviously, I've got choices here. I have 4 possibilities, in fact. Or is it 5? There's that one, which is the one I played. It is the wrong checker. This was the roll. And we'll see which one I move. Well, you've just seen it, that one. So that's the wrong one. Why is it the wrong one? The correct one is to move the checker on the 15 point. So why is that? Good question. That's what it looks like when we've done it. I think the reason it's correct to move the one on the midpoint, it gets it out of the firing line for one thing, but if I move the one from my opponent's home board, I'm just putting him right into the firing line to be sent straight back. It's not a particularly scary home board anyway. My opponent doesn't have that many reinforcements in place. Checkers in the zone is another way they describe that. Anyway, so why am I panicking? Just leave it there a little bit longer. Bring the checker down from the 15 point. Whichever I do, I'm not particularly happy with, but you still have to pick the right one in this situation. It is a flat decision between which checker to move, because I've had to come off the bar with a 1. So what I do with the other one is important, and sometimes you have to pick the least worst one, and that's what I've done here incorrectly. Okay, a few moves later, still in game 5. Bit of a theme here. I tend to have bad games, or have a glut of blunders. Not always huge blunders, but I have a series of them. I've got 2-1 here. I can see that I can hit. But I've already got 3 white checkers on the bar, so I decide that's a bit of overkill, in inverted commas. In backgammon, that's probably not a good thing to think that. You should really be looking to do the right thing, and if that's putting a 4th checker on the bar, that's what you do. 11 to 8 is okay as a move. Obviously, it's not bad. It does a good thing, but 2 to 1, 4 to 1 with your 2-1 is much more powerful, putting 4 checkers on the bar. I mean, just imagine being in that situation as your opponent. How much would you like that? You'd hate it, wouldn't you? You'd absolutely hate it. So, not hitting here is it's passive. It's crazy. Just be aggressive, not in a horrible way. You're not actually hitting anybody. But in backgammon, you need to do the play that is the best all the time. And if it's the one that annoys your opponent the most, it's probably going to be the best play. Okay, still in game 5, although the blunder this time, it's quite a big one, is from my opponent. The reason I've included it is because I would have done the same. And I also remember a very similar situation from a game I played about a couple of weeks ago, which wasn't videoed. So it's an interesting spot which I brought up because I think it's interesting. Right, that's the roll he's got, 5-5. He's clearly worried about being backgammoned. So he's run. Now, the data's interesting here because it's very counterintuitive to mere mortals like you and I who are not maths geniuses. But if we look at the data that XG comes up with, if white stays, he's 69% to be gammoned and only 19% to be backgammoned. But he also has a very small chance of winning 9%, which is interesting. Now, that figure of only 19% to be backgammon is a surprise, but if you think about it, I need to roll double 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. If I roll double 1, I can't get them all off. So the backgammon might not happen there. So it's 5 rolls, isn't it? So it's a slightly smaller number than you might imagine. But the key detail here is that if he goes, he will be gammoned 100% of the time. We're on a 2 cube, a gammon is 4 points. It seems obvious to go if you're worried about the backgammon, and the backgammon on a 2 cube is bad, but so is definitely losing a gammon on a 2 cube. And the maths dictates here that actually it is worth taking the risk of staying. If he stays, he's 69% to be gammoned. That's 31% where he won't be gammoned. He's only 19% to be backgammon, which we have agreed is bad, but he's only 19% and actually has a small chance of winning 9%. So those figures, how the neural networks work those out, it's all to do with maths, rolls, or blah, God, who knows. But I'm not a good enough mathematician to be able to sit down and work all that out. But that's what backgammon is about with these tools, is to get a feel for it, and that's what we've done here, and it's interesting, I think. All right, we're now in game 8. Not to say I didn't make any mistakes in game 6 and 7, I'm sure I did, but they weren't interesting or significant enough for me to include them. I've made a roll of 6-1 here. I hit with the 1 and bring a back checker out with the 6. Now, what had happened just before this point was that I just made my anchor on the 20 point, the 5 point in White's home board, which I was pleased about. So I'd made a mental note that I'd just done that, and I sort of, on the back of that, probably thought I need to hang on to it a bit longer. The trouble is, in backgammon, the very next roll can often change things. And the very next roll gives me the opportunity to hit twice, from 65 and from 20 to 14, which I didn't do, I think because I was wedded to the anchor that I've just created. And I think this is a leak of mine that needs fixing. Backgammon is a lot about flexibility, and changes happen very quickly. You can go from big favourite to big underdog in one roll of the dice, and your situation can change quite subtly with one roll of the dice. And that's what happened here, and I didn't twig. Okay, we're in game 10 now. There's a 2 cube, so I'm losing 7 to 9, match to 11. So it's getting quite critical. What do I do with my 3-1 here? That play looks obvious, doesn't it? Obviously not to a good player it doesn't, because the slotting play was correct, which an expert might well have spotted. That's my roll and what I did, as you've just seen. Well, that's not the correct play. The correct play is 8 to 7, 13 to 10. Why is that correct play? That's the important question that needs answering. Well, as I believe it to be, it's what we call buy now, pay later. So basically, as long as white doesn't roll a 6 or 5-1, I have as many rolls to make a 6 prime. Quite a few rolls, in fact, 20, plus a few more actually, combos. That 6 prime will trap white, and from that position I'm probably going to win this game and get it to two-way, where I will cube correctly next go, and we're basically playing for the match. Even if I do get hit here, white's home board isn't super scary. I'll have a return shot to hit back. It's not that scary. So this is one of those situations where it's absolutely absolutely worth taking the risk at this point. And you need to look for these spots in backgammon. They happen a lot, and if you miss them, you do tend to lose out. Anyway, it didn't work out. I did lose that last game, and it was a great match, and I learned a lot. I hope you enjoyed it too.